All right, so today we're going to dive into something that I think a lot of people don't think too much about. But it's actually super important for especially like string players, and that is preventing injury for violinists. You sent over this source, How to Prevent Violin Playing Injuries with Proper Shoulder Rests. And I have to say, I'm already intrigued. I mean, who knew this seemingly elegant instrument could be so risky?
Right. It's true. Like you said, it looks very graceful. There's a lot of beautiful music, obviously. But under the surface, there's a lot of strain and potential for injury that people don't realize.
Yeah, you almost imagine violinists as these like invincible musical athletes, but the reality is they're just as susceptible to injury. Sometimes even more so because of the really precise, repetitive movements involved.
Yeah, and I think also we focus a lot on the larger, more visible injuries that happen. But with musicians, a lot of it is these really subtle, repetitive motions, or these awkward postures they have to hold for hours on end when they're practicing or performing, and those tiny little micro traumas can really add up over time.
Yeah, it's like those epic gaming sessions where you're so engrossed in the game you don't even realize your neck is like killing you until like 3 hours later. Except for violinists. It's their career and their passion on the line.
Exactly. And the source even goes into, it's not just about, avoiding some kind of major mishap on stage. Even if you have seemingly good technique, that can lead to problems down the road if you're not careful.
See, that's what I think is a little bit unsettling to me, honestly, is that even good technique can still put you at risk. So it makes you realize how important it is for musicians to be just as proactive about injury prevention as, say, like a professional athlete.
Absolutely. I think about it this way.
Yeah.
Like athletes wouldn't dream of, hitting the field without a proper warm-up stretching and taking care of their bodies. Musicians need to kind of adopt that same mindset.
Totally. Okay, so where do we even begin? If even good technique can be risky, what can violinists do to protect themselves?
Well, the source dives deep into the importance of shoulder rests. And it's way more than just a comfort thing.
See, that's what's really blowing my mind here. I always thought shoulder rests were purely about comfort, maybe a little posture support, but they're actually like injury prevention tools in disguise.
Yeah. Exactly. And to really grasp the importance, I think we need to understand the mechanics of how playing the violin even correctly can put stress on the body.
Okay, let's unpack that. Tell me everything.
Okay.
So walk me through this. How can something as seemingly simple as how you hold a violin be so impactful on the body?
Well, you're holding this instrument, right, even if it's a light one,
Yeah.
For an hour, 2 hours at a time. Multiply that by, years of playing. The weight of the instrument itself can start to put strain on your neck, your shoulders, your back if you're not careful.
Right.
And then there's the actual angle you have to hold it at.
Yeah.
In order to bow correctly, you need your arm up, you need your wrist in a very specific position.
Yeah, I remember even as like a beginner, just trying to like keep my wrist straight and not let it like collapse was a challenge in itself.
Exactly. And so holding that position, even with good technique, can cause tension and fatigue in your muscles and tendons. It's kind of like holding a plank.
Right.
You might start strong, but after a while...
Yeah, everything starts to tremble. You're like, I just want to collapse.
Exactly.
I can see how those like micro movements over time could really turn into like real problems.
Yeah, and that's where the shoulder rest comes in. This PDF breaks down 3 major ways that they actually help prevent injury.
Okay, hit me.
So the first and perhaps most obvious is by enabling a more neutral posture. Without a shoulder rest, a lot of players tend to crane their neck forward or hunch their shoulders to try to secure the violin.
Yeah, I can see myself doing that for sure. It feels more natural to like try to grip the violin with like your chin and your shoulder to like keep it stable.
Right. But that kind of posture puts a tremendous amount of strain on your neck and upper back. Over time, that can lead to muscle imbalances, chronic pain, even something as severe as like a repetitive strain injury.
Ouch, that sounds awful. And I'm guessing the shoulder rest helps to prevent that by...
Exactly. By providing support and lift, a good shoulder rest lets you hold the violin in a more relaxed and natural position with your neck straight, your shoulders relaxed.
So it's like having this little ergonomic platform that just takes the strain off your body so you can actually focus on playing.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to the second way that shoulder rests can help prevent injury. And that is by reducing the sheer effort required to hold the violin.
So it's like the shoulder rest is actually helping you hold the violin up. That makes so much sense. Now, I'm really curious about this third one. What's the deal with shock absorption?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. Every time you draw your bow across the strings, it creates these vibrations. And those vibrations, they travel through the violin and into your body.
Oh, wow. I actually never even thought about that, but it makes total sense. It's like those experiments where you like feel the vibrations of a tuning fork or something.
Exactly. And so without a shoulder rest there, to kind of absorb some of that shock, it's all going straight into your collarbone, your shoulder joint, even your jaw.
Wow. I'm starting to realize how much I've taken my shoulder rest for granted. It's like this little shock absorber that's protecting my body from these constant micro impacts.
Precisely. And over years of playing, that constant vibration can really take a toll, potentially leading to inflammation, joint pain, even arthritis in some cases.
Okay, you've officially convinced me that a shoulder rest is like non-negotiable for any serious violinist. But the source also mentions this 5-step guide for choosing one. And I have to say, when I first read it, it seemed a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it seems like a lot, but it's actually quite logical and user-friendly once you break it down. And just like everything else we've talked about, each step ties back to those core injury prevention factors.
Okay, let's break it down. What's the first thing violinists need to consider when choosing a shoulder rest?
Well, the first step, and arguably the most important, is figuring out the ideal height for your shoulder rest.
So it's more than just like picking one that feels comfy.
Oh yeah, much more. The height of your shoulder rest actually dictates the alignment of your neck and your shoulders while you're playing. If it's too low, you're probably going to be hunched over straining to see the strings. Too high, and your neck's going to be forced back at an awkward, uncomfortable angle.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot where everything just feels naturally aligned.
Exactly. The source says your chin should rest comfortably on the chin, rest without straining. Your neck should be straight and your shoulders should be relaxed. That's how you know you found the right height.
That makes sense. What about step 2? The source talks about considering shoulder structure. And I have to admit that one kind of surprised me.
Yeah, it's not something people often think about, but your collarbone shape actually plays a huge role in finding a comfortable and supportive shoulder rest. If you have like a prominent collarbone, you'll need a rest that's not going to dig into it and cause discomfort.
So like people with wider set collarbones might need a broader rest to distribute the weight more evenly.
Exactly. And this is a great example of how personalized this process needs to be. What works for one violinist might be torture for another. It all comes down to individual anatomy.
It's fascinating how much nuance there is to something as seemingly simple as a shoulder rest. So what about the material? Does that really make a difference beyond just like aesthetics?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't a fashion show. It's about finding what functions best for you. Wood is kind of the classic choice, and it offers a certain resonance that some players prefer. However, composite materials are becoming increasingly popular because they tend to be more durable and moisture resistant.
Moisture resistant, that's a good point. I can definitely see how that would be crucial during like long practices or performances when things start to heat up a little.
Exactly. And the source also mentions that breathable materials like padded cloth or suede can be a game changer in terms of comfort, especially under those hot stage lights.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've talked about height, shoulder structure material. Now, what about the shape of the shoulder rest? There are so many options out there, flat, curved, asymmetrical. Like, how do you even begin to choose?
You're right, there's a surprising amount of variety. The key takeaway here is that the shape should work harmoniously with your body. It should distribute the weight of the violin in a way that avoids strain on any one area, particularly your collarbone and shoulder joint.
So it's about finding a shape that really complements your individual anatomy and playing style.
Exactly. And this is where trying out different shoulder rests can be really helpful.
Right, like you wouldn't buy shoes without trying them on first. All right, so we've covered height, shoulder structure, material shape. What about this final step?
So the last step is all about paying attention to those finer details that often get overlooked.
Okay, what kind of detail?
Things like adjustable legs, non-slip surfaces, the type and amount of padding. Adjustable legs let you fine-tune the height for maximum comfort. Non-slip surfaces keep the violin securely in place, especially during vigorous bowing. And padding, well, it just makes everything more comfortable.
It's amazing how much thought goes into designing these things. You know, it reminds me of this time when I was first starting out, and I like bought this cheap one-size-fits-all shoulder rest thinking I was being thrifty. It ended up making playing so uncomfortable that I actually like affected my technique.
Yeah, that's a really common experience, unfortunately. People assume that all shoulder rests are created equal. But as we've seen, the right one can make all the difference. It's an investment in your long-term health and your musical journey.
Absolutely. It's like anything else, you get what you pay for. But speaking of investments, the source makes it clear that a good shoulder rest is only part of the equation. It also talks about the importance of developing healthy playing habits in general.
That's right. A shoulder rest can do wonders for preventing injury, but it's not a magic bullet. You also need to focus on maintaining good posture, taking breaks, warming up properly, and listening to your body.
So it's about having this like holistic approach to your well-being as a musician.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of musical excellence and push ourselves too hard. But just like athletes need to take care of their bodies, musicians need to prioritize their physical health if they want to have a long and fulfilling career.
That's such an important reminder, and it's something I think we all need to hear, myself included. Now, the source mentions some red flags to watch out for, even if you are using a shoulder rest and practicing good playing habits. What are some signs that you might need to kind of take a step back and seek professional help?
Well, they highlight things like persistent muscle tension or soreness that doesn't go away with rest, tingling or numbness in your fingers or hand, swelling around the joints, sharp pain when playing, or any pain that lasts for more than a couple of weeks. Basically, if something doesn't feel right, don't ignore it.
Right. It's so easy to just kind of brush off those early warning signs, especially when you're really passionate about something and just want to keep practicing. But as you said earlier, early intervention is key.
Absolutely. Seeking help is a sign of strength and wisdom, not weakness. It shows that you're serious about taking care of yourself and your craft.
You know, it's incredible how much I've learned about something as seemingly simple as a shoulder rest today. It really highlights the importance of paying attention to those subtle factors that can impact our health and well-being as musicians.
It's been a pleasure diving into this with you. It's a topic I'm particularly passionate about, and I hope our listeners are walking away today feeling empowered to approach their playing with a renewed focus on injury prevention.
Me too. It's so easy to get caught up in like the technical aspects of music and, striving for that perfection. But at the end of the day, our bodies are our instruments, and taking care of them should always be our top priority. So to our listeners out there, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to take a closer look at your own playing habits and really prioritize your long-term health. Until next time, take care.